Hello, dear viewers. Namaskar. Welcome to Moksha Media. You are with Moksha Hirimat. Today, I would like to tell you something about Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar, the 16th king of Mysore. Compared to other kings of Wodeyar's family, Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was a different one. He expanded his kingdom to an extent which his ancestors tried. Of course, Mysore Wodeyars have their own contribution to the development of Mysore Kannada literature and language. Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was not an exception to this, but he treated the people otherwise. Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was born on 22nd September 1947. He was ascended the throne in 1773, 1673 of Common Era. He nearly ruled the kingdom of Mysore for 34 or 35 years. I have already told you that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was a different one compared to other kings of Mysore. Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was a knacki and to a little extent a good strategist. He expanded the kingdom of Mysore to Tamil Nadu, towards Andhra and Karnataka. Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar is also called Devaraja II, ruled the kingdom in his own way. Two or three points should be revealed regarding his administration. Of course, he changed the military system and administrative system to suit his own interests. And Venkoji, the co-brother of Shivaji, was reigning Tanjavur up to Bangalore. Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar wanted to purchase Bangalore from Venkoji for 3 lakhs. But anyhow, it was agreed. But at that time, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb attacked him. So when Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb's representative attacked Bangalore, Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar stood for Aurangzeb's representative. He opposed Venkoji Rao. He stood against Venkoji Rao. He fought against Venkoji Rao. He stood face to face to Venkojirao in order to defeat him. He stood for Mughals opposing Venkojirao. Even Venkojirao and Wodeyars were Hindus, were heroes in the eyes of the people. They stood against each other for sake of their own interest. And when Mughal emperor got success over Bangalore, the treaty between Venkojirao of Tanjavur and Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was broken. After Mughal succession, Bangalore came under Mughals and Bangalore was ceded to Sira, a town in the district of Tumkur. And there was a Mughal representative. His name was Qasim Khan. It was a mandala. He was a mandala representative. From that Sira, he reigned the other parts of Karnataka, obeying Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. So at that time, Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar made an agreement with Aurangzeb. He opposed Venkoji. After the war, the Mughal emperor would give concessions to him, would take his interest. Of course, Mughal emperor guarded him. He provided him some concessions, and at last he purchased Bangalore from Qasim Khan of Sira. At that time, Sira was an important place, but not Bangalore. Now the fate of Bangalore is different nowadays. But at that time, it was ceded to Sira. Now Sira is a small town. Even today, we can see the remnants of Mughal emperors there. When we enter into Sira city, the atmosphere will be changed to a little extent. Now it is completely in the state of Karnataka, and the persons there are Karnatikans, no doubt about it. Now the time is entirely different. But at that time, Sira was a main city, was an important city. From that city, the Mughal representative controlled the Mysore kings and others. Another point here should be mentioned that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar taxed the people very heavily. The farmers were unable to pay the tax. They declared a movement, they declared a protest against the king. King suppressed that movement like anything. Not only that, he could not bear the protest. In order to suppress that protest, that movement, king massacred the people like anything. He made a treacherous trick in order to suppress that peasant movement, which took in his reign. The peasants were so strong, they coined the slogan. That slogan is even today seems very relevant to some situations, The persons participated in that slogan, that peasant movement, said that Basava the bull till the land. Basava the bull till the land. Devendra post the rain. We the farmers till the forest land with hardships. Then why should we pay the tax to the king who doesn't do anything? So that was the slogan. Of course, this slogan sometimes is relevant even today in some cases. But to that extent, the peasant movement was advanced. They did not pay any tax, a single paise, to that Devaraja the second. Of course, Veerashaiva Matas supported the peasants. They stood for the peasants. They voiced the grievances of peasants. So, Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar wanted to take action against Veerashaivas and their matas. So, he made a treacherous plan. He wanted to have a compromise with these matas. So he arranged a meeting for compromisation. Then different tents were put for sake of compromise at Nanjanagudu. Different matadishas, that is the ascetics of Veerashaivism, were invited. So many of them were attended the compromise meeting. 4 tents were put, one for the king, another for the Veerashaiva ascetics, that is Viraktas, and other for ministers and court poets and legal advisors, and others for the peasants. Behind king's tent, a dugout was there. There a soldier was stood in order to behead the ascetics. So now the compromise meeting was taken place. King called ascetics one by one. He asked their grievances. The ascetics innocently explained their grievances and the problems of the rights, problems of the peasants. And then Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar agreed of their grievances. He invited them for a good meal, that is an offering. He sent them inside the tent. But the lane was very narrow. When an ascetic, Veerashaiva ascetic, got inside, automatically his head was cut off by the soldier who stood there. The cut off head, that is the beheaded head and body, should be fallen into the dugout very automatically. In such a way, the treacherous plan was made. So like that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar beheaded 770 Veerashaiva ascetics. Of course, in Veerashaiva Puranas and stories, they are called as Amaraganangalu, that is, they are eternal Jangamas. The eternal Jangamas, that is the Veerashaiva ascetics, fought non-violently, but the king answered them with violence. Movement was non-violent, action was violent. There was the bloody act of that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. No one, I think, in the history of Mysore Wodeyars acted like this except this Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. He was very selfish compared to other Wodeyars. There are so many Wodeyars, there are so many kings, they stood for the interest of the people. They provided so many comforts. They made the life of the peasants a noble one, no doubt about it, except this Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. He went on collecting the heavy taxes, and with that tax, he purchased Bangalore, that too for 3 lakhs at that time, only 3 lakh rupees. So, he used that money for such a thing. So that is remained as a massacre in the history of Mysore Wodeyars. Even today, the people, whatever caste it may be, whatever religion it may be, can't forget it. Even historian Nanjunde Nandaraj Aras mentioned it in his writings. But in addition to that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar was in favor of arts and literature. In his period, so many poets were sheltered and they were posted. That Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar himself was a poet. It is said that he wrote Gita Gopala and Devaraja Binnapa, I think, etc., etc. But it is said that someone had written in the name of that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. Anyhow, in his kingdom we can see the poets like Tirumalarya, he was also minister in his kingdom, and Singararya, Aliya Devaraja, who was a scholar and who was in favor of that Yakshagana. He shaped Yakshagana, and it is said that he wrote nearly 50 literary works. That is another thing. But the important thing in the history of Kannada literature is that Sanchi Vannamma, whom we called, who wrote Adivadiya Dharma in Kannada, was a popular figure. Even today she is a popular figure. Her Adivadiya Dharma is a great literary work in the history of Kannada literature. She comes next to Akka Mahadevi, a Vachanakarti in the 12th century of Sharana movement. After that Akka Mahadevi, we can name Sanchi Vannamma. Sanchi Vannamma was a maid servant in the palace of Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. She was a girlhood friend of Chlkka Devaraja's wife. Chlkka Devaraja's wife and Sanchi Vannamma were from Elanduru, and since girlhood she was serving that woman, I think Devaraja Mani. So anyhow, he gave a scope to literary activities and art and culture. Poetess like Sanchi Vannamma emerged in the reign of that Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar. So like this, the story goes on and on. But anyhow, whatever it developed, it is developed from the point of view of Mysore Wodeyars, but not from the point of view of common people and peasants who till the land and enrich the country. That is the problem with these, or with this king, especially Mysore king. Other kings are there. They were people friendly. For example, Jayachamaraja Wodeyar. For example, Ranadira Kantirava Narsaraja Wodeyar, etc., etc. We can mention many of them. Except this Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar, who massacred the people anything for his own interest. So he was such a cruel one. Of course, he supported Sri Vaishnavism. There were some poets, there were some court poets. There were some poets who praised him like anything. And that praise made him a cruel one. We say in Kannada, Ogali Ogali Vanna Sula Kerisaderaya, like that. But these court poets praised him, applauded him like anything, and made him an inhuman one. In addition to the advancement in literature and culture, this act of Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar made him not a great one. It had minimized the greatness of Chlkka Devaraja Wodeyar to that extent. That is what we have to bear in our mind. These kings and queens and rulers are there, They support the religion, whatever it may be, if it protects their interest. If the religion is against them, they go against the religion. They don't give that much of importance to religion. They say this religion and that religion, but their only religion is to get the power and to rule the people and to lead a life of luxuriousness. That is in their kingship. Now it is there in the form of democracy also. We see so many persons in the name of democracy, for sake of voting, they pleased this community and that community, this religion and that religion. They provoke the people to fight among themselves. But they play upon the emotions of the people for sake of their own interest. And by that they lead the life of luxuriousness. One here and there, some exceptions may be there, but these exceptions are exceptions. But anyhow, in the given extent, it is inevitable, People know it very properly. They will teach in one way, another way, or they would be taught by some occasions or by some happenings, natural happenings, etc. and etc. So that is what we can see in Mysore kingdom also. Of course, Tipu did the same thing regarding a Brahmins. Tipu brought some changes, especially to the women of Kerala. At that time, women of Kerala did not wear that kuppasa. But Tipu made it compulsory to wear kuppasa. And some changes were made, no doubt about it. But with those changes, they have their own interest and they played that interest in the name of the people. And here for the persons like us who live in the period of democracy, that a people's interest becomes more important than the interest of others. Of course, the life of the society is very important. Everyone should lead the life of peace and happiness. Whatever community, whatever religion it may be. Human religion is very important, All the religions in the world teach us humanity, but not inhumanity. But in the name of humanity, we play the game of inhumanity. That is the controversy which is there in us. That controversy is also continued in democracy. This controversy should be put an end as much as possible, and then only the life of the society would be more happy, would be very peaceful. That is what we have to keep in our mind while studying these kings, kingdoms, in the form of democracy, in the form of feudatory, in the form of etc., etc. So, then only we can have the society we want. That is what history teaches us. But we don't give importance to history. If we give importance to the history of kings and queens. But history is not only the kings and queens, it is the history of the people also. That is what we have to keep in our mind while studying these aspects. Anyhow, this much is enough, and the remaining thing will be continued in the next episode. Share and subscribe. Thank you. Namaskar.